Now, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Oh, I think. Hey, and no mates, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're having some technical difficulties for some odd reason people couldn't hear me. Now you can. This is brilliant. So yes, we're going to be having this conversation about building wealth in women in 2022 and going forward. So I'm excited about this conversation. This is our second Goddess in Chief conversation. And the pin comment works. So, ladies, we'd love to have your questions. I'm going to have my guest, Lara Waldman, who is an abundance activator, an author, a spiritual well-being coach for women to actually change their money stories. I am looking forward to this conversation like nobody else because I'm ready to take notes because it's time. It's time that we break up with all those conversations that we've had around money that says we can't have it, or if we do have it, we only have it for a short period. It comes, it goes, and all. Enough. It's time to have very happy, wealthy women. And so, yes, yes, and yes. Ooh, hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
How you doing, Laura?
I'm good. How are you? Looking
I
gorgeous.
well, thank you. I thank you. You look amazing yourself.
Aw. Aw.
So we are here. So let me, to all those who are joining us right now, welcome, welcome to the space. We're going to be talking to our incredible guest, the Abundance Activator, author, all-round buster of negative money stories, Lara Waldman, as we dive in today. Today is about wealth. It's about generating wealth. It's about breaking up with the BS stories we were given from our whoever. We're not mad at them. They did the best they could. They gave us rattlesnakes in bags. Now it's time to throw those rattlesnakes out and acquire wealth for ourselves and our descendants to come. So, Laura, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Such a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm excited too because when did I meet you? I met you 2021 this year. I met you around, I think it was June.
Mm.
I would like to say June or before June. And I remember I was told to go to your money retreat. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, God, I mean, another conversation about money. I mean, really, truthfully, I've read all the books, I've done the work. This should be. And it was everything I did not expect it to be because yeah, you blew me away. So I had to let you know about that first and foremost off the bat.
That's really cool to hear. I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear more.
So, what is an abundance activator? Let's start with that.
Good question. So I help to wake up the wealth that lies inherently within us. So the abundance, the wealth that how I see it, it lives within us, like gold lives within the earth, like the diamonds live within the earth. And it's really about activating that wealth, waking it up, going mining for that gold within. So yeah, that's how I would describe it. It's waking up that inner wealth rather than we very much trained to think that what we're looking for is outside of us, but it's understanding that we are the source first and foremost.
Okay, I like that, especially that fact that, we're digging deep into ourselves. And like you said, we've been taught that we needed, as women, especially as women, that what we seek is always outside of us or with somebody else, and we need to be rescued. We need somebody else. We need some prince riding around on a horse in a forest and say, oh, look, there's a buddy. Let me pick it up. We've all been taught this kind of story that it's outside of ourselves. So I like the fact that you remind us that what we seek is within us first and foremost. So, and you're an author, and your thing is about your book is called, let me make sure I have it right, Money Manifestation Mastery, the 5 Steps to Abundance Activation. What drove you to write this book?
Good question. Well, I create in kind of an unusual way where I get what I call downloads or inner guidance or an intuitive guidance. Feels like telling me what to do, right? And it's an aspect of myself, or you could call it source or God or the divine or the universe. But I also think it's like a consciousness that lies within that has basically guided me into speaking about money, teaching about money, helping people around their relationship with money. And writing the book was a part of that process, really landing and grounding this work into the world. So it felt very much like I was pregnant with the book, and then I needed to give birth to it. Just like you don't own your children, you give birth to them and bring them out into the world. It felt a bit like that to me, that book.
Okay. And that's, and that's, we're gonna go into the book a bit more, because I want to understand what those 5 steps that we need to do in terms of our activation. But before we do that, before we really delve down into your book, baby, we're going to talk about, why do we have so many fraught stories when it comes to money, especially for women?
Well, it's a very good question. One that I've been like, I call myself an energy detective. I've been like trying to get to the bottom of all this for like the last 20 years. Like, what is going on with money and this planet? I mean, we're so, I guess, programmable, influenced, particularly, really even from the womb, how we're growing and developing the womb through our mother's nervous system. And our whole interaction with the world as we grow and develop, and we go through very significant developmental stages, and there's so many seemingly subtle or maybe not even conscious moments around conversations around money, right, within the family, within the society that you grow up in, with the culture that you grow up in. A little moment where someone says something, right, and that can really imprint and influence us, especially when we're very young. And there's so much within, and then there's within the whole financial system itself that I can't claim to fully understand it. But what I do believe is that it's not designed to benefit everybody. It's designed to benefit a few. So this whole system sort of ends up working against, particularly if you don't fit into that mold of like white man, for example, right? So it's like the system sort of works against you if you're not kind of fitting into that little box at the top of the pyramid. So but all of this stuff is super subtle, and it might even be hard to call out and to even sort of identify, because they're little subtle moments, little subtle comments, and so it starts within our family, but it then it just expands out, and it's like deeply sort of systemic, I think, actually, when you start getting to the root of it. And it's old, right? This is going back kind of centuries as well. So you've got your own family, but there's also generational trauma or generational patterns or generational relationship also with money based on our history. And all of that gets passed down, and we're carrying that in our DNA, we're carrying that in our experience. So there's a lot going on, and yet most of that is in the unconscious. Most of that we're not aware of. So it's fascinating when we start digging in there to sort of uncover and discover what's going on.
So I like the fact that you're talking about the unconscious and also talking about the generational stuff, the one that conversation that is a very hot topic right now. Everybody wants to talk about the generational trauma, but it's like we're not yet pinpointing the fullness of that, the impact of that. And for people who are thinking, what in the world are we talking about when we start the whole generational trauma? Think about it this way. Have you heard in your family, they will say something like, and we are never good with money. There's a story that you tell, oh, my family, whenever it comes to money, drunks, fighters, and something. There's that story. That is the generational story, which may have been carried from God knows how long to where we are today. And it would have morphed and changed and morphed and changed so that you may not be aware of the origin of that story, but you kind of know a piece of it.
Mm.
And it shows up in your patterns. Am I correct with this being a fuller understanding of this generational trauma?
Yeah, and it goes and it's also not always about money directly. So it's a lot to do with our self-worth and how we feel about ourselves. And so yes, so that's an example. It goes like just goes super deep, because I love, like I said, I like to kind of go dig right to the roots of things. But that is an example of like the stories we tell ourselves and the stories our family tells when it comes to money. And not just the stories, the lived experiences, right? The very real lived experiences of your ancestors. And we carry that, we carry that with us. And what I see is that when there's a pattern, or let's say trauma that's not healed, it gets passed down from generation to generation. And I see that each generation has an opportunity for transformation and healing and growth and development. So we carry the story of our ancestors. We carry that within us. And so money's part of that story, and our relationship with money is part of that.
Okay. So how easy is it for us to say, you know what, enough is enough? I didn't write this story. I didn't create this mess. I no longer want to carry it. How easy is it for us to start a brand new story?
It's a really good question. It's like saying, how long is a piece of string? Or, I mean, for me, it depends how deep you want to go with it, right? It depends what you want to do. You can make a decision. I think first is making a decision, and that decision to change is easy in the sense that you first have to decide. And so much changes from that. So we can have what seems like miraculous manifestation or instant manifestation, where we can change things very quickly. But also, so as a healer, because I started out as a healer, what I'm fascinated about is why we heal, but also why we don't, And sometimes there's things that really need our presence and attention before they can heal, before they can shift, before they can transform. And I do work with the ancestors, and it's like sometimes we need to know something, feel something, acknowledge something before it can move. And this is, so we can shift a huge amount, but if there's things that are still holding us back and things that aren't working or aren't changing, then we need to maybe dig a little bit deeper and say, what is this that's like almost gripping on and holding on? So some things can shift very quickly, and some things take longer just because they need more time, they need more care. And also we have to be ready to meet and face whatever that is. So for example, with trauma, if there's a trauma pattern that we need to face in order to transform that money story, it might need more holding and more safety in order to actually transform that story. So it's both. It can be super fast and super simple, and sometimes it can take longer based on just what that story is, what that old trauma pattern might be.
Okay, thank you so much for that answer. Before we continue, I want to welcome those who have just joined us. This is our Goddess in Chief Conversation, and I'm talking to Lara Waldman, and we're talking about money. We're talking about healing patterns. We're talking about wealthy women. We're talking about creating generational wealth. We're talking about bursting some old patterns that may and may not be getting in our way. So even though, yes, Lara talks to women and for women and helping women heal, men, welcome to the space as well, because you know and love women in your lives. So this is a space for you as well. So we've just looked at how do we put some things down. And, one of the things when we start talking about money, I think for me, and I'll talk from my experience, is that I remember as a kid watching you name the shows, and I don't want to have to age myself, but the dynasties of the world, the Dallases and all of that. There seems to be that reoccurring theme that once a woman has money, she is a bitch. Plain, simple. There's no going around it. She's a bitch. Yeah. Right. So, and the bitch with money makes the most noise and gets what she wants. And so I think there's this portrayal of, and this is, again, from my perspective, that women with money equal bitches. Therefore, maybe a lot of women who are women now growing up as young girls seeing this would have constantly made a connection and said, I don't want to be her. So having money is a problem.
Yeah.
How do we unstick this story? And is there that toxic story of woman with money equals bitch? How do we unfry this?
Yes, well, reclaim the bitch is one way, but absolutely we don't have that. Again, that's sort of the difference when we're looking at men working with money and women. Is you don't really call a man a bitch, or you don't call a man bossy. Like I call it the boss bitch babe, like the boss bitch business babe, because you don't have that. You don't call a man bossy. You don't call a man a bitch, right, who has money. So we have a bit more to overcome when it comes to reclaiming our wealth, particularly as in a female body anyway. But how I've worked through this, because I came from money and really rejected it because I didn't like what I saw in that scene. And so I had a lot of beliefs that, people with money are greedy, people with money are shut down, people with money are cold, people with money don't care. I had a mountain of stories to overcome. And so for me, the first step is like, how do you want to be, right? We think that it's money that's a problem. It's not. It's about how do you want to be with money? What if it's not either or? It can be and decide about your relationship that you want to have with money. First, how do you want to be with it? Most people I speak to, they want to be generous. They want to contribute. They want to give back. They want to live a great life, but also make a difference in the world. So that's the first thing, is how do you want to be? And then we also need to really be looking at all of our judgments, right, that we project outwards, right, that all the preconceived ideas and judgments we have of everyone, right, with money. Because if you have a judgment about someone with money, then it's going to be very hard for you to claim that for yourself, because we create separation with rejection and judgment. So we also need to go and really look at where our own judgments and projections are on others with money, and start to heal and shift that, and then really start to look at, all right, how do I want my relationship with money to be? And what's amazing about that is then we start to see maybe more examples of like good people with money, for example, or like, I don't know, different versions of that. But if we think, right, that people with money are bitches or greedy or whatever, that's what we're going to see. That's what we're going to, that's how it will filter through. So I guess, first of all, is like really addressing all the judgments, and then really looking at how do you want to be with money? What kind of person do you want to be with money? And this is, for me, a really fun place to start from, a really fun place to begin.
Okay. I like that, especially like you said. My favorite saying to myself is, "You go looking for monsters, you will find monsters."
Yes,
that's the. And so, if we are busy monster hunting when it comes to our money, or when it comes to people with money, we will create this monster in our mind that money is problematic.
Yeah.
But then, but then saying that, we then turn around and then we have these men wanting to go up into space in things that look like penises, and there's just a whole lot of conversation around these people with money, and then it's easy to get sucked into that judgment of, well, they should be doing what they should do with their money, the whole conversation, and then we find ourselves in that space. So I guess my question here would be, how do we reclaim our own energy about money, especially if we've come from a family with judgments and stories about money? We have judgments and stories. So what's the first thing that we can do to actually say, you know what, I want to start a brand new relationship with money? What's that first thing that we need to do?
It's a very, very good question. And so if you think about it with starting a relationship with anything, like maybe, if you look at, let's say you have difficult relationships with men, for example, we might be like, all men are X, Y, Z. But in order to attract in or welcome in a healthy relationship, we need to really shift that. So it's a relationship. It's a belief system. Excuse me. So what you want to do is, excuse me, just swallowed something.
Do you want to grab some water?
Yeah, one sec. So the way that I navigated through this, right, was to tune into what I call the energy behind money. You know, the spirit of money, the consciousness of money. And I started to discover that money in itself is a neutral energy. And so what I recommend doing, this may not be the access point for everyone, but this was the place that I started. And actually, it's kind of came through almost like a divine information. I was starting to be shown that there was a whole other version, a whole other relationship with money that was available, that was completely outside of the lived experience that I had had with it. And it was showing me that money wanted to love me and support me. And there was this co-creation between myself and money. And it was actually waking up that by welcoming and receiving money, it was starting to wake up something within myself that had been suppressed, dormant power, my purpose, who I truly was, beyond my trauma patterns. And I started to bring it in that way. So one of the things that I like to do is first ask people, how much money do you want to be bringing into your life on a monthly basis or annual basis? And then tune into that amount of money almost like it's its own person, its own entity, its own being, its own consciousness. And start a conversation with it. Like, start to get to know it. Like going on a date. And you can do this through kind of meditation. If you're a meditator, you can do this with journaling, where you're actually spending time, like just like if you're going to go on a date with someone completely new, be like, like let's get to know each other a little bit. Like, tell me about you, wealth consciousness, and start to get curious. You know, I talk a lot about staying in that state of curiosity, where, you know, your old money story might tell you can't trust them, like can't trust that person, like we put the walls up and the barriers up, like what if that's just a money story, like what else is here for me, and just start to kind of play with that a little bit. So I don't know, how does that land as a sort of an exercise or a starting point?
I like it. Let's actually ask the people in the room who are listening live with us. Are you guys going to try that with us? You know, put in the chat, in the comments, how much money would you like to make on a monthly basis come February 2022? You ramp up 2022 in January. How much do you want to start making in 2022? I know what I want to start making on a monthly basis. So what about you? Let's see who's in the room. Rakaya, Sharon, Stephanie, the Sensitive Leader Coach, B. Manzini, Hakeem, Mr. Impact. So all of you who are here listening, K Dances, Face Yoga, I would love to hear from you how much money you guys want to make on a monthly basis. And you can leave that in the comments. Let me know. Let's see if I can go into the comments.
From asking this,
okay.
I've asked this question to hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, and generally speaking, the average, I would say, would be like 5 to 10K a month, with what the average people will say. So be curious, and some people just want to make an extra $2,000 a month, or sometimes it's $100,000 a month. So, yeah. So, but I'm curious if you can see. I can't see the comments, so
I can't see anything coming just yet. So we'll see what comes in. And welcome to Zealously D, who's just joined us. So big waves to you. And we're talking to Lara Waldman, and we're talking about money, how to break up with those money stories that keep us in a stuck and shrunken place. So the question that we've just posed is, how much do you want to start making come 2022 on a monthly basis? And this is actually because you want to start introducing yourself to money in a brand new way, and also start dating your money. It's not in a weird kind of way. It's how would you treat your money if you had a relationship, one-on-one relationship, where it's not this huge monster at the door, but it's a friend.
Yeah.
It's that energy that has your back. What would that look like, feel like, taste like for you?
Yeah.
What does that number feel like each month? So for me, it will be 10K a month. That's after tax and everything, a clear 10K in my bank account each month. That's my number.
Gorgeous. And so one of my gifts is I can feel the energy of things. So for me, that 10K a month has its own consciousness. It has its own wealth frequency. And how I play with money is working with money as an activator, money to actually wake up your purpose, wake up your power, wake up who you truly are beyond the stories, beyond the trauma, beyond the old programming. So by opening the doors, right, to that 10K and letting it in, letting it love you and letting you love it, what it's actually doing is you learning to love and welcome and embrace that aspect of yourself that's at that 10K vibration. So I call this your wealth frequency. It's, you know, it's like your goddess within. It's your queen, right? And so as soon and like you are looking that right now, like you are in that through your style. And so for me, it's like so gorgeous. And we want to be one of the questions I love to ask is, who or what do I need to become? Who do I need to become to welcome that 10K a month in? It's landed in your bank account, in your reality. What do you need to wake up within? So again, this is this inner activation for the outer creation. Of course, you're going to need to do things for that 10K a month and practicals, but it's like the inner game, the part of you that knows how to welcome it in, the part of you that's already in alignment with it. And so this is a wonderful question to sort of journal on or ask. Who or what do I need to become to welcome in, to receive this amount of money? And it's not that you're becoming someone else. You're becoming more of you, right? It lies within. And it's often aspects of ourselves that we've suppressed, that we've hidden in shame, we've hidden in pain, not consciously. There are parts of ourselves that we've deemed to be unlovable, unworthy, not deserving. Parts of ourselves that we've hidden because of trauma, perhaps. So it's really fascinating. This is the bit, you can see me getting excited, because this is the bit that I love about money manifestation. It's like waking up these dormant parts that actually know that wealth consciousness within you actually knows how to create that amount of money, actually knows how to welcome it in. She knows her worth. She knows what she's here to do, right? She's here to, you know, create some ripples, right? Ripples of change. So, and also have fun, right? That part of you is like fun and funny. You're really funny, you know, so it's like bringing that joy and play and pleasure out as well.
You know what? I love every aspect of that imagery you've built up, because there's something about being playful and allowing room for all of you to show up, not this very, I must make money, I must make money. And energy, because that's basically going to Gollum energy for all of those who are Tolkien fans. It's like, must make money, as opposed to, hey, I got money in my account, I'm making this money. There's a whole different vibe to it. But you touched on something about the manifestation. And I think that there is a lot of misconception, because, you know, a lot of us watch The Secret. We're like, I have it on my wall. I'm going to sit and go, and I want the Ferrari, please. No Ferrari. Okay. Where's my goddamn Ferrari? And so we've all kind of been in that space of, we've done The Secret, we've meditated, we've hung out, we've done all of that, but the Ferrari didn't show up. And then we think we are broken. The problem is it's me. I am not worthy of said Ferrari. I am the problem. So what do we have to do to up our manifestation game? Or what is it that we're missing from The Secret, from what we see, what we've seen on The Secret, to our real life?
Oh, great question. And I'm giggling away, because that was me for a very long time. I was like, I'm just going to sit in my bed and meditate. And the thing is that also can work. So you can manifest some things very passively, but not everything. So some things were happening. I remember really tuning into my guidance, being like, I'm doing all the things, like, how come it's not here? And my guidance is I sort of have a conversation with this part of myself. They're like, well, Lara, you actually have to get out of your room and actually take some action, right? So you actually have to put one foot in front of the other. So this is what I call an aligned action. You need to be a co-creator. Yes, life is going to bring you things, but you also have to be opening doors and taking that step and starting to build, one brick at a time. And I call that aligned action. You have to take aligned action, but it's aligned action. It's action that's actually going to support you to get what you want, which we don't always know what that is, because we've been trained in certain ways of doing things that aren't always working. So I don't know, one of the ones I see a lot with women is like, you're supposed to be really nice and really kind and just give, just give. Be of service, just help everyone. And yes, that's really good, but out of balance, it's not, right? And so so part of the journey, particularly with women, is actually being like, what do I want? Like, how do I meet my needs, right? But if we've been taught, that I had the programming that I'm selfish if I do that, and it's bad. It's bad to put your needs first. And so what you're supposed to do is put everyone else's needs first. So this was a big part of my reprogramming. And I was like, really? I'm allowed to have what I want? So first it's like, well, what even do I want? And then you have to go through this whole journey, right? And then starting to take action on meeting your needs, having your needs met, for example. So there are obviously the Ferrari thing. There's sort of practical steps of making money to buy things. But sometimes the other thing we get quite confused about is we have so much programming around what we think we want. So let's say like consumerism, for example, and there's no judgments of the Ferrari, like, yes, that's super fun and sexy, but that might not be your thing. Like, I'm not into cars really. So for example, I don't really care I don't even own a car. Like, that's not my thing. My thing is maybe going to like beautiful villas, with pools by the sea, right? So it's like, first it's getting clear, what do you really want? Like, what do you really, really want? Because we think we want things, but sometimes it's not really the thing. And so what's fascinating, I have the sort of privilege of working with obviously kind of higher level, like 6-figure, 7-figure entrepreneurs and business owners. And one of the things that I see over and over again, I experienced this in my childhood growing up as well, is actually when people get what they want, like they hit all the goals, is when they can get really depressed. Right? Get really down, because they've been going for things, trying to get somewhere that's not really the thing that's bringing fulfillment. So sometimes we're not manifesting because it's not really what our heart truly longs for and truly wants. We think, right, we should have X, Y, Z. So our heart is a powerful, powerful source of creation. Our bodies are a powerful source of creation. We need to get into alignment with what is it that you really want? What is it that's really important to you? And really get in touch with, I guess, they're your core values, your core why. And money is a vehicle to support you with that. But money alone is not going to be the thing usually, right? It's fun and it's fun to play with. So that's my first thing. It's like, let's get really clear on what it is you want, why you want it, and what's really, really important to you. Because I see people just chasing their tails and actually building businesses and lifestyles that actually are not really fulfilling. So you end up building like a beast for yourself. So sometimes things don't happen because they're not in alignment. Sometimes things don't happen because they're not in alignment. So we need to get really, really honest with ourselves about what we want. That's one piece. So we can be like, I want X, I want that. What do we really want? We're getting heart, soul, body aligned. And when we're in alignment with that, things start to move more. The other piece that's really, really important is the healing journey that manifestation takes us on. And I feel like this is not, or was not talked about, definitely wasn't touched on in The Secret. But, and I learned this the hard way, which most of the things I've learned has been the hard way, which is that there are unprocessed, unhealed aspects of ourselves that in order to tap into our creative power and our ability to manifest, we need to go on a kind of a powerful healing journey. So that might be around self-worth, not deserving. I call them abundance blocks or money blocks. Again, they're usually deep in the unconscious. So we don't, of course I want money. Of course I want love. Of course I want a relationship. Of course I want a home. But we need to look at what is the unconscious blocks that are stopping or blocking you from welcoming that in. And there will be some kind of trauma pattern or some kind of belief that doesn't feel safe to receive. And this I am endlessly fascinated about. That within our nervous system, within our mind, our emotions, our bodies, there's some part of us that does not feel safe to have the Ferrari, that does not feel safe to have the money, that does not feel safe to open up to love, because it's immensely vulnerable, because there'll be some story, there'll be some trauma that told us that when that came in, I was hurt and harmed, right? Somehow. So I think that our money blocks, or I call them abundance blocks sometimes, are one of the key blockers to our, like, to be able to actually manifest what we want. And there we need to do the deep diving work. And this is what I'm really passionate about. So yes, we can like visualize and have the vision board, but if our body does not feel safe to let that in, we will have unconscious barriers of protection, right? Trying to keep you safe, literally repelling and pushing away the very thing you think you want, but it's not conscious. So that's the challenge of that one.
Okay, so I get that. First of all, before we sit down to do the manifestation work, we need to do the healing work. So we need to plug the gaps, and we start with the stories. We start with what we're carrying. We start looking at our unconscious beliefs. We start digging deep within us to say, okay, where am I blocking myself? Or what are the patterns? Because normally we won't say, where am I blocking myself? You tend to notice that you will have patterns that you will repeat over and over and over again. You might find it in your parents. You might find it in your siblings. You might find it somewhere in that close space that you're in the friendships that you keep. Those patterns will show up. So what you're saying is to take that time to observe, reflect, and point it out for yourself. And this is where a journal is going to be our best friend. Yes. Is that what I'm getting?
100%. And to understand that it's like, if you're mining for the diamond, you're going to have to move through a lot of rubble. And for me, it's an ongoing process. So just to understand, it's part of the journey. So sometimes it's like you're going to try and manifest something, and literally the opposite appears. It's like, wait a minute, I'm trying to manifest, why is this showing up? And it's usually because we're being shown the pattern, or we're like, this is the thing you have to look at if you're going to shift this. And it's very painful. And the challenge is that most human beings, we're pain avoiders. We don't want to go in. We don't want to look at the hard stuff. We don't want to have to make the uncomfortable changes that are required to transform your relationship with money. It might be meaning saying no to someone, putting up a boundary, for example. It might be ending, a toxic relationship. It might be things that are really hard and difficult for us to do. We can do a lot of things within first. So I think we just start with the journaling, start with getting clear. We don't have to go and make big, fast, radical change right away. But we first need to be willing to see and look at the unhealthy or the toxic relationships with ourselves, with money, but that then our relationship with money gets mirrored out everywhere. It's why I love working with money, because it's about love, it's about intimacy, it's about our relationship with life, and our relationship with money will be showing up in other places as well. So it's endlessly fascinating. But yes, so journaling through, being a witness, observing. I call it taking radical responsibility. Like, be like, all right, if you're in the power seat to consciously create your life, you're also in the power seat to consciously transform that which is not working for you as well.
Okay. I like this fact that it can start with something really small. So before we continue, welcome to those who've just joined the Goddess in Chief conversation. I am talking with Lara Waldman, and we're talking about activating our money story from a place of change, creating a relationship with our money so that we start building that wealth that we want, not from a place of strife and stress, but do it from a place where it's a loving relationship between you and money. Now, the thing is, we've been sold a lot of stuff around money. We've been told, my favorite one is growing up is money doesn't grow on trees. And then I was, as a kid, I always kind of wanted to say, but isn't money paper? So isn't that, but yeah, it's a trap. Never answer that question. Is a trap. Learned that the hard way. The other one I like is, and that people will come up and go, oh yeah, but I'm a spiritual person. So yeah, money just doesn't feel good to me because, the root of all evil is money. And you're like, okay. But there's a whole other line to that statement that we tend not to use. We tend to go, money is the root of all evil. So if money has such a bad rep, money is considered the bane of humanity's problem, that you don't even have to look into your own family story. Watch any movie, any series, you will find money is a problem. And, money leads to jealousy. Jealousy leads to all sorts. How do we now say money is a good thing? How do we break up those really ingrained money stories, especially when you have people going quoting the Bible said money is the root of all problems. How do we break up those stories to moving forward?
Yeah, really good question. And the very first step is to try and catch yourself, right? To be the witness of yourself. What are you saying about money? What are you thinking about money? What are you thinking of people with money? What are you, and identify them, or just start with, maybe, what if, just curiosity. What if all the negative judgments and thoughts and beliefs you have about money, what if that's just a story or one possibility? What else is possible when it comes to money? So the first thing is you need to be catching your thoughts and beliefs, identifying them, witnessing them, and then finding a way to kind of create a little bit of separation between and seeing it as a story, basically, rather than the truth. So money is the root of all evil versus, there's a belief that money is the root of all evil. Is that true? What else is possible here? And so that's where I started, was just starting to question, bringing in your critical thinker, right? Is that even true? Does, the more money, more problems, there's that song. It's is that true?
True.
So, I mean, this has been one of the benefits for me, having been living in the world of money, and also in the time when I didn't have money, and being around, all backgrounds, is that there's problems whether you have money or you don't have money. Right? There are challenges with money, without money. It's just sometimes I joke, new level, new devil. It's there are different challenges at different levels, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, which level do you want to play on? Do you want to play on the broke level challenge? Do you want to play on the challenge of, what do I do when I'm working with 6 figures, 7 figures? What? There will be different challenges at different levels, and so we need to look at that. But also, just my first thing is just catch it, witness it. Just maybe for a minute, just look. Maybe that's just a story. Maybe that doesn't need to be the truth of all truths. And honestly, when I first started doing this work, it was like a mountain of judgments and beliefs. Money was the root, because I came from a very spiritual background. In the spiritual scene, money is the root of all evil. If you're spiritual, you shouldn't charge for anything. So I was in a huge amount of conflict for a very long time around, honestly, it took me years before I could start opening up to money, because I was like, but wait a minute, is this am I going to sell out? I'm going to be a money whore. I'm going to be a sellout. I am giving myself up to the devil or whatever, not really that one, but kind of joking. But it was I am a sellout. I have, this is me selling out, prostituting myself for money, really was it. And I was like, what is that all about? What is this all about? A lot of it comes from religion. There's a lot of, religious programming. I have an Irish kind of lineage, so there's a lot about Catholicism and guilt. And so there's a lot to just look at. Like, how much of this is truth? How much of this is indoctrination? What is the truth? What is my truth? You know, and how would I like my relationship with money to be? Like, what if the complete opposite is true? You know, so that's where I start with catching, witnessing, reflecting, and then just starting to bring that curiosity in. And it starts to,
You know what? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, it just starts to create a bit of space and starts to unhook a little bit, and gives you a little bit of room to be the observer, and then from there we can hopefully start to make different choices.
You know, I think that the fact of the matter is you've touched on quite a few different things, especially the stories that we've been told, the programming. You spoke about, you know, the Catholic Church. And it's funny, the Catholic Church, when we think about it, is very wealthy in itself. And this is not to damn the church or not or anything, but they hold a lot of wealth. And then to spread that money is a problem. You're like, wait, but aren't you... is this a case of do as I say, don't do as I do? Because I don't understand. So this whole thing where we've been taught that wealth is a problem. And I remember I saw a meme that says, money can't buy you happiness. But the guy in the meme goes, but I'd rather cry in my Jag than on a bicycle. I would rather cry in the Jag than a bicycle. I'm not saying that money solves all problems, because it doesn't. And, you know, and for those people that say, oh, yes, you know, once you have money, you're a bitch. Or once you have money, you become an evil person. And I say this all the time. And I say it in jest and I say it in seriousness. Money doesn't make you become something. Money is just an amplifier. It just shows you who you really are. So if you are an ass to start off with, money, and you have loads and loads of money, just makes you a bigger ass. We've seen that play out in the world that we live in. But if you are a person who is genuine, who loves people, who's always looking for the best, and you have loads and loads of money, it shows. And I can give you two examples, because they talk about, yeah, winning the lottery can be disastrous for your life. Now, there are two people here in the UK, and I'm going to use them as an example. One guy, I think he was about 19 when he won a buttload of money. He won, you know, God level money. And he became known as the Chav Millionaire, because, and Chav is never a good thing. It's a derogatory statement, because he took that money, bought things, became a nuisance in his community, became a nuisance to everyone around, made his neighbor's life a living nightmare, and just blew the money in the most interesting fashion. And then there was another, I'm going to use one other couple. They won, again, a God level amount of money. They set up foundations. They went on holiday. They supported their family. They gave money away to the community. They built this foundation based on what they're winning. They've made this charitable foundation, and they're using it to change the life of people they come in contact with, those they know, those they don't know. And that's two examples of people who they didn't have to do anything to get the money aside from play a game. And they both won money. And the differences is like night and day. So it is who they are. Money just emphasized that. So I think we need to kind of get to that space of the story.
100%. I say the same. Money is an amplifier. And this is why it's so important that we do our inner work and do what I call shadow work, because, you know, we all have, you're multi-dimensional beings, and this is what I love, why I love doing the healing work and the trauma work, that we sort our shit out, we clean out our cupboards, right? And so that we're open and receptive to receive in a way that is going to be life-giving rather than life-taking. And you know, rather than it can be a destructive energy, but it can also be an energy that create a lot of powerful, wonderful change. And that's what we're in control of that. You're in control of that. So this idea that like money's going to suddenly turn you into an asshole is like, well, no, money's just going to put a spotlight on what's there. and we'll
Yes.
amplify it. So, and yeah, we all have shadow, we all have light, you know, it's part of our human thing. But I feel if we can do that inner work, that we're more integrated or more whole, we're going to be coming from, you know, more heart-centered place. And hopefully living, you know, better lives. I mean, that's what I'm about. You know, how do we use this in a way that's contributing not only to your own life but to the lives of others? And it's a choice. It is a choice at the end of the day.
Exactly. It's the choices that we make. And so we're talking about money. For those who've just joined us, we're talking about generating money in women. We're talking about how to actually break up with those money stories that we may be carrying from our ancestors, how to break up those money stories that have gone in our way, those that we've absorbed from the media and all weird and wonderful spaces. So we're talking about money. And I think my main question is, we're kind of touching that point of, well, if you're a spiritual person, you're not supposed to charge. If you're a spiritual person, blah, 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 blah. This is what this means. And I normally will say this over here because I remember a lot of people like, oh, yeah, as a spiritual person, you should do this for the love and light. And I'm like, yeah, BT doesn't take love and light. I checked. They don't. They don't. So we need money. We need money. And I'm going to ask you from your perspective, why do we need more wealthy women in the world going forward?
Oh, one of my favorite questions. And this was literally the message that came in from my inner guidance that inspired me to even do this money work, because I had no interest in teaching and speaking about money at the time when it came in, was that we need to get more money in the hands of heart-centered women. That was the message. And it's not just women, right? It's about really waking up what I would call the feminine power, feminine wisdom that has been suppressed for a very long time, right? You're not going to go through history right now, but we need to get, women, or this heart-led leadership, feminine-led leadership, because that energy knows it's a life-giving energy, right? It's a life-giving energy. And there's women in the world who are very masculine, right? This is about really balancing and like waking up that feminine power within, reclaiming. And we start by reclaiming our own power within, remembering who we are. And that energy wants to give, it wants to share, it wants to contribute, it wants all life to thrive. And it's not just about the I. It's not just about how can I have for me and me alone and me in the castle at the top of the hill. This energy wants to, really transform the lives of others as well. It's a life-giving energy, and we're at a time now where we absolutely have to change the way we're doing things. It's not sustainable to continue as we are, as we all know. And this sort of feminine power, this feminine wisdom, actually knows how to do that, because that's its true nature. So, but we have some cleaning up to do, right? We have to clean up some of the old beliefs, the old ways, the old kind of wounded system, the old wounded financial system that was, created by white men a long time ago, right? And it's like time to reclaim and find a way to do this differently. And one of the things I like to say is one body, one business, one bank account at a time. We start within, we start with ourselves, and then we kind of go out and create and share with others.
Okay. See, I like this, and I love the work that you do. So let me ask before we wrap this up, how can people get in contact with you?
Oh, well, I am on Instagram, Lara Waldman Official. You can reach out to me there, DM me there. I have a YouTube channel as well. It's Lara Waldman Abundance Activator. I've got my website, larawaldman.com. I'm on Facebook, Lara Waldman Abundance Activator, and LinkedIn. So there's a few different platforms where you can come find me and message me. And you can also put in my book, Money Manifestation Mastery. You can get that on Amazon or other book retailers as well.
Okay. And that, just as we come to the book and to wrap up, I have one question. You talk about the 5 steps to abundance activation. If you can give us one of the steps that we need to take to activate our abundance muscles, what would it be from the book?
So my step 1 is relax. It's rest. It's taking space to stop and be. And this is the complete opposite of what we've been taught of how we create. So it's so counterintuitive, but we need to stop, rest and relax so that we can start to release. My step 2 is release. We start to kind of rebalance our nervous system, and we start to tap into our inner wisdom from that space of rest and relaxation. And so that is my step 1. And it's creating, it's the value of rest and the value of relaxation. It's so valuable. And yet again, we've just been taught to do, go, which burns us out. And particularly female bodies do not create best from that place. So rest, step 1, relax. Step 1, relax, space to relax. And then we start to tap in from that place into this wealth consciousness within, this inner wisdom, this powerful creator part of you. So that's my step 1.
I love that step 1 because it is, and this is this to the hustle culture. Yes, I am signed up for the rest, because there's this idea that, you know, any social media platform you go to, this one that we're on is a bit more guilty of that, where every time you look up, you're supposed to be working. Rest, you're supposed to earn your rest. You're supposed to, and I'm like, no, I don't want to live that life. I don't want that. So I love the fact that your step 1 is the antithesis to this hustle culture, which, like you said, burnout is real. So ladies, gentlemen who've joined us this evening, I want you all to go and slide into Lara's DM and ask her about money activations. Ask her about how to crack the wealth code that you have internally, how to break up with those toxic money stories. And maybe you might be the toxic person in your money relationship. How to break up with that level of you so that you can start generating the wealth that you want and start becoming that wealthy woman and man that you want to see in the world. Not the one who's an ass, but the one who uses that money to create something glorious in this world that we live in. So on that note, I'm going to say, Lara, thank you so much for being our guest this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. You know what to do. Follow Lara, follow myself. And if you want to find out more, I'm being serious about slide into her DM, ask her questions, connect with her, follow her. And actually, she has a wealth retreat coming up in the new year. Ask her about that, and I will tell you it is something that you have to do. It's 5 days. You don't want to miss it.
Thanks.
All right, guys, it's a wrap. Bye.
Bye.